We can now discuss this with Mark Weisbrot. He's the co-director of the Center for Economic and Policy Research and joins us live from Washington, D.C. Mark, great to have you on the program. So now that the U.S. has labeled the Cartel de los Soles a terrorist organization, do you expect that U.S. security agencies will actually take action against the group and possibly President Maduro with more possible attacks in the country or on boats that the U.S. claims are headed for their shores with drugs?
Well, it's still tough to say right now. I mean, the main thing is that Trump is coming under pressure here and from around the world. Lula, for example, the president of Brazil, said at the G20 summit that he was going to talk to Trump about this. And he hadn't said that before. And I think you're getting more pressure from around the world and also from right here. And you have to remember, so much of this is false. You've already exposed some of the biggest falsehoods, the idea of fentanyl. And, they're blowing up all these boats. And then Trump says, look, we just saved 25,000 people because we blew up a boat. And that's based on the fentanyl that comes into the United States and, killing like 80,000 people in a year. And of course, this is just not true at all, as you noted. And you can get this information from any of the major agencies, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the UN Office on Drug and Crime. So it's all pretty, everybody knows this. And of course, Trump can still get away with some of it. You do see this fentanyl reporting on some, I won't mention any name, but some big stations here still talk about that fentanyl is coming from Venezuela when it's completely false. And the same is true for any really significant amounts of cocaine that come to the United States. So I think the other thing I think that's really not believable, and people are starting to realize that, is that it really doesn't, the idea of regime change in Venezuela doesn't have anything to do with elections there or anything that Maduro did. The Cartel de los Soles, all the experts you talk to here in Washington will tell you it doesn't even exist. The Cartel of the Suns that they're saying is the drug organization that Maduro is in charge of. So that's nonsense. And the idea that regime change has something to do with like the last election in Venezuela. The United States has been engaging in regime change efforts in Venezuela for 25 years. In 2002, the State Department released a document, the State Department Office of the Inspector General, on the coup in 2002. And they said it's clear that the Department of Defense and other U.S. assistance programs provided training, institution building, and other support to individuals and organizations actively involved in the brief ouster of the Chavez government. And then you look at all the elections since then, and U.S. was still refusing to recognize the results. And you got to remember, as late as 2012, Chavez had been there 13 years. And Jimmy Carter stood up and said, of the 92 elections we've monitored, I would say that the election process in Venezuela is the best in the world, And he wasn't, connected to the government or anything. So this is what we've been doing. And so it's not a big step for someone like Rubio, who's quite fanatically, dedicated to the overthrow of the Venezuelan and Cuban governments. He sees those two as connected as well. And of course they are in some ways, but this is part of his project. So it's not that hard for him to latch on to what's been going on for more than 2 decades.
So Mark, given everything you've just outlined there, and you were speaking about the pressure on Donald Trump right now from leaders like Lula from Brazil, could that pressure actually result in Trump stopping what he's doing in Venezuela and targeting the so-called narco-terrorists? Because, of course, drug smuggling is a problem. Listening to that report from our correspondent, Venezuela does still benefit from the revenue from that drug trafficking.
Oh, but it's so little compared. Again, they've got none of the fentanyl. They've got maybe 5-7% of the cocaine. Of the cocaine could pass through there. They don't produce it. It may pass through, and it doesn't even go. What passes through doesn't even go to the United States. I think the real pressure, though, is here at home. That's where you're getting the most pressure, because first of all, you have all these institutions in the United States that the president just doesn't grab control of them that easily. So there's the military, the commander of Southcom, which is all of Latin America below Mexico and most of the Caribbean. He resigned on October 16th. He announced he was resigning, and he had met with Hegseth, the Secretary of War or Secretary of Defense. He calls himself Secretary of War, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the military on October 6th, and they tried to pressure him, and he said, look, I'll quit right here, according to CNN. And they said, okay, and they let him just resign 10 days later, and I think, or retire. And so the military doesn't like this war. And you have other parts of the government, and the Congress has pushed back very hard. They just had a vote on a war powers resolution, which according to U.S. law and, of course, the U.S. Constitution, but also 1973 law, the Congress has to approve any kind of military action like this. And, of course, so that was a very close vote. It was 2 votes in the Senate and that it lost by. And Rubio and Hegseth had to come to Congress right before that vote and say, no, we're not going to do anything like this in Venezuela. And the White House counsel was there, and he said, yeah, we don't have a legal right to engage in any kind of warfare in Venezuela, just we don't have a legal justification. So that's how they got avoided this vote that were the Senate would have told them they have to get out. And so this is going to increase because there's another one coming up in the House as well. And so they're having a lot of resistance at home. A poll just came out like yesterday or today from CBS and YouGov, 70-30. The respondents reject any kind of war in Venezuela. And the most important part for the Republicans electorally is the independents, because those are the swing voters. And that was 78%. So that's those people are 50-50. Absolutely. And that 78% said no to this war. So that's what's putting the pressure on him the most. But also, I think the rest of the world helps a lot, too.
And of course, that type of pressure and that resistance from within the United States will be important for those midterm elections in a year from now. We'll have to leave it there. Mark Weisbrot, really good to get your thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you.